So you could say that addiction is literally getting too much of a good thing. Now here's why. Our brain releases certain feel-good chemicals. Dopamine, endorphins, when certain drives, certain natural drives that we have as humans are satisfied. These chemicals are released in our brains and make us feel good. For example, when we have sex or when we eat something, it feels good. So this pleasure that we get is God's way of our bodies letting us know that, hey, you've satisfied this drive, you've satisfied this need that I've placed within you. So it's a natural thing and it's a good thing. But what happens when you get too much of a good thing? What happens is you have what's called neuroadaptation. Basically, the neurons in your brain get very used to feeling those chemicals, to releasing those chemicals. Your brain gets very used to that good feeling. So much so that you need more and more and more of the good feeling in order to just feel normal, just to get to baseline in the first place. So someone who doesn't have any neuroadaptation to these neurotransmitters like dopamine and endorphins, they're going to feel normal without a lot of extra stimulation or satisfaction of these drives. But someone who does have the neuroadaptation is going to need more and more and more of the pleasure, more and more and more of the satisfaction of the drives in order to just feel normal. So what is addiction? Addiction is the brain adapting to higher concentrations of these neurotransmitters. So the brain needs higher concentrations of dopamines and endorphins in order to just feel normal. So you can be addicted to a behavior if that behavior releases endorphins and dopamine in your brain, and your brain is used to those higher levels of endorphins and dopamine, and it needs those higher levels in order to feel normal. You can be addicted to that behavior, whatever that behavior might happen to be. Now, drugs take it a step further. Addictive drugs bypass part of this cycle, and that's why they're so much more dangerous than simple behaviors. Now, in many cases, we can train ourselves or train people out of an addictive behavior through conditioning or extinction. But drugs, addictive drugs, are a lot more serious because they bypass the cycle. With behaviors, you've got an inner drive to do something, and then when you actually do that thing, that drive is satisfied and the chemical is released. Drugs bypass that by just releasing the chemical straight off. And also, drugs release those chemicals, those dopamine and endorphins in our brain in much larger quantities than any simple behavior ever could. So taking the drug creates that neuroadaptation so much faster. Our brains get used to those higher level of chemicals, sometimes within the first use of an addictive drug. So then when our brain is used to these higher level of neurotransmitters, the receptors in our brains are insensitive to normal levels of neurotransmitters. So basically what ends up happening is we have this profound inability to feel any pleasure because all the pleasure receptors in our brain are way overstimulated, and they need a whole lot of those neurotransmitters in order to feel anything at all. So the addictive drug user is continually understimulated. They're not feeling any pleasure unless they can get those higher levels of endorphins and dopamine in their brain by using the drug that they're addicted to. So for them, once someone is addicted, that desire for the drug acts like one of your instinctual human drives. It's as powerful or more powerful than the human need for food or sex or any of our natural drives. So that's the short version of the mechanics of addiction. The key to preventing addiction when it comes to behaviors is behaviors in moderation. If you overdo any behavior that gives you a pleasure response, you can become addicted to it. The key to preventing addiction in chemical cases is to not even touch the stuff in the first place, because often within the first or second use of an addictive chemical, your brain is just so overflooded with those neurotransmitters, dopamine and endorphins, that it can't get back to normal. It just needs that again in order to feel anything at all. That's why there's such a strong emphasis on kind of indoctrinating kids to just say no to drugs in the first place.